Hello, West London. I'm Reid, and this is my wife Nancy, and we have two children who are now young adults, Esther and Kathleen. I first started attending West London in about 1987 and attended for a couple years before I left for graduate school in Ohio.
And I started attending, and about a year after, Graham started attending West London because I started following him around, and one of the places I followed him to was West London. In 1992, we were married. Mike did our marriage counseling, and then we promptly moved away to Ottawa, then Halifax, and Toronto. And in 1999, when Esther was 2 years old and Graham took a job at Western as a faculty member, we moved back to London and we went back to West London. We knew that Mike was still the pastor and there were still lots of people that we knew. I had roommates that I had lived with that were still attending, and it seemed a natural place to come back to.
I think one of the things that, for me, despite all my mistakes and failings, I come back to in terms of my faith is that I'm a child of God, and I know that my identity rests secure in Christ. I know that I am loved. I know that I will see Christ again when I'm in heaven. For me, that's absolutely foundational. Everything else is just secondary. How does this kind of play out in our lives? Well, in a couple ways. One is that the verse in Joshua has kind of been our family verse. As for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. And that's a verse that Nancy and I have had from before we were married. And we always think that this is what we're called to do, to serve. More recently, for me, Luke has been an important verse, Luke 12. To everyone who has been given much, much more will be required, and to the one who has been entrusted with much, much more will be demanded. God has blessed us richly, and I'd like to believe that Nancy and I have given back in the various ways that we've served. I think for many years, I don't even know how many we served as life group leaders, and we served in other ministries in the church, both collectively together and separately. And that is some of the ways in which I think we've tried to live out the verses that are important to us in fulfilling our faith.
One of the things that was important to me when we came back to London and to find a church, we in our moving, we moved 7 times, I think, in 9 years. We learned that you quickly need to join a church and jump in and serve. Find a church that believes solid biblical truths, is centered on the person and the ministry of Christ. And churches like people have personalities, and so we liked the personality of West London. But I particularly liked how many children there were, how vibrant the church was, and how welcoming and how challenging always the message and the teaching was to be biblically grounded in the truth, but to serve in love and humility everyone around us. And so that's fit really well with us for, well, now almost 20 years since we've been back at West London.